On this edition of the local campaign, we are presenting the riding debate for the provincial election in the riding of Orléans. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce the candidates who are here for the debate today. Let me just explain quickly how the rules are going to work for this debate. Each candidate will have 60 seconds, 1 minute, to provide an opening statement to you, the voters of Orléans. The order for those opening statements was drawn at random just before our telecast. After the opening statements, we're going to have a series of debates about the big issues in Orléans and throughout the province of Ontario. In each case, I will start the discussion with a question directed at one of the candidates in one of the key issue areas. That candidate will have 45 seconds to respond to that question on his or her own, and then we will open it up to several minutes of debate on that topic where every candidate can participate, offer some comments, offer some thoughts on his or her party's platform, challenge the other candidates to respond to their questions, and so on. After that debate is complete, we'll go back to the candidate to whom the question was originally directed, and he or she will have 30 seconds to wrap up on that topic. We'll move through a number of different topics that way, and then we'll wrap up with closing statements, once again 60 seconds in length, and we'll go in reverse order of the opening statements. So let's meet the candidates who are here for the debate in the riding of Orléans. First, the Progressive Conservative candidate, Cameron Montgomery. The Liberal candidate for Orléans is Marie-France Lalonde. The NDP candidate for the debate tonight is Barbara Zarboni. And finally, the Libertarian candidate is Gerald Bordeaux. Now, there are two other candidates who are running in the riding of Orléans who declined to participate in the debate. They are Victoria Landoni of the None of the Above party and representing the Green Party, Nicolas Lapierre. All right, let's get things started. And the first opening statement belongs to Cameron Montgomery, the Progressive Conservative candidate. You have 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rogers. Thank you, my opponents, for being here. Merci, Marie-France. My name is Cameron Montgomery. I grew up in a great home as the youngest child of 6 with strong values, and we cared for our neighbors and our community. Today, my wife, young son, and I embrace and live these same values. At the doors, I've heard you loud and clear. You are concerned about access to quality health care and waiting times for surgeries and specialist services. You worry about your kids' education and what they need to compete against the best in the world for good-paying jobs, and you know that our province cannot continue to rack up deficits and debt. Friends, Ontario has been mismanaged into the highest subnational debt on the planet, now at $300 billion and heading to $400 billion if the Liberals win.
All right, we'll stop there. Marie-France Lalonde, the Liberal candidate, you're next. You have 60 seconds.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marie-France Lalonde. It's a pleasure to be here with you and along with the other candidates. Listen, Orléans, I've lived in our community for the past almost 20 years. I was a social worker working at the Ottawa Hospital and CHIO for several years and then moving on to the retirement home sector. I became a business owner in 2008, caring for seniors at Portobello Manor. Together, we've done a lot. We've been very busy in the past 4 years. The LRT Phase 2 to Trim Road. We build schools. We've also the reality of our healthcare hub and certainly the cleaning of the Ottawa River. I'm here today to discuss our vision for the next 4 years. We've announced a few things with that vision regarding MIFO and Blackburn, and I look forward for this very good debate. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next is the NDP candidate, Barbara Zarboni. Go ahead, you have 1 minute as well.
Hello, I'm Barbara Zarboni. I'm running for the NDP in Orléans. If there's a contest about who's lived in Orléans the longest, I think I win. I've been there for 32 years. I raised my 3 sons here, and now I'm helping to raise the next generation in Orléans. This riding has gone back and forth between Liberals and Conservatives, but I don't see things getting any easier for the people of this area. Hydro rates have risen. It takes longer and longer to get to work. Wait time in emergency rooms are increasing, and our young people are mortgaging their futures to get an education. At-risk seniors are not being well cared for. Young families either can't find safe or affordable daycare. I think we can do better. It's time for a change, and I want to be part of that change. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Finally, representing the Libertarian Party, Gerald Bordeaux. Go ahead.
Hello. You would not use the same lawyer to buy a house as you would to handle an insurance file. You would not have the same doctor examine your feet as you would your brain. And you would not have the same contractor hang drywall as you would shingle a roof. Presumably, the reason for this lies in the idea of qualifications. And yet, today, this debate will proceed under a fiction with which I will not agree. The fiction that there can be a qualified individual to send to Queen's Park to ethically and properly vote on laws that will micromanage the personal and economic lives of 13.5 million Ontarians from above Kapuskasing all the way below Windsor, from the type of food they're allowed to eat, to what contracts they can enter, and all the way to what words they can use. And worse yet is the fiction that the appropriate method for finding such super intellects capable of managing such a complex system as Ontario is to choose from a tiny slice of the population willing to put their visage on a billboard. This system cannot be a rational way forward, and I will offer a better option.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to all the candidates for your opening statements. Let's get right into the debate now. I'm going to direct the first question to Cameron Montgomery, the Progressive Conservative candidate. The first topic is education, and as we get into the debate, we can talk about all aspects of that, but I'm going to start with a specific question about education. Your party has promised to scrap the sex ed curriculum in Ontario. What would you replace it with?
I'm proud to say that I've been in the field of education. I'm a teacher. I've been a professor of teachers, Francophone and Anglophone teachers, for the past 26 years. The curriculum in Ontario was, the Liberal Party consulted only 0.001% of the population for the component on the sexual education. It is, they did not consult parents. It is vital that we consult parents and all stakeholders within the education field and look at the age appropriateness of the sex ed curriculum. It's a fundamental step that has been neglected by my Liberal opponent and something that we're going to proceed with as a future government.
Okay, it's open to everyone now.
So I'm going to be asking, actually, Mr. Cameron here, did Doug Ford call you to ask for advice as a professor to know exactly what the education system needed in Ontario? And I'm going to say, based on what I understand and the non-plan idea, I would say, Mr. Cameron, that most of the aspect of the ideas that Mr. Ford is throwing out there is probably actually cut. Fewer teachers, increasing classroom size, and I would say going backward. You know, what I hear at the door is the risk associated with consent, the risk associated with cybersecurity, the risk with texting and sexting. These are things that we are listening at the door. And to improve that, we've actually consulted a fair amount of people, experts, that all agree that we need to make sure that people, and I say this as a mother of a 24-year-old, that they know how to say no. They know what's mean consent and respecting what you are about. So, you know, Mr. Cameron, I really don't understand the slogan that your leader is saying, and I'm quite shocked and a little surprised. So what I say to Orleans is that for the past 4 years I've been with you. We went through the change in our classroom. We worked together to ensure that safety of our kids, that we have reasonable amount of information for those children that are at risk.
With all due respect, we have the lowest math scores. Record low math scores. I have been training future Francophone teachers that have performed excellently in math, that have the highest math scores in the province. However, in our riding, there's disparities. Under the Liberal government, our math scores are low. The sex ed curriculum, in fact, I have numerous discussions with Mr. Ford, just like I'm sure you did with Mr. Wynne. And I could ask you the same question. Does she consult you about Ms. Wynne, about the sex ed curriculum? I'd be very surprised. When it's 0.001, I'd be extremely surprised.
It's not that I don't think sex education should be taught in school. I really don't have an opinion on it, but it's kind of like wondering if you turn the lights out when your house is burning down. The Liberals and Conservatives have underfunded education for decades. The schools are crumbling. Hundreds of schools are closed. Years of cuts and freezes have left us with a $16 billion backlog of repairs. I just want you to know that the Elementary School Teachers Federation has endorsed the NDP. And that's because the NDP will overhaul the funding formula, starting with a comprehensive review focused on equity and quality. One thing is we're going to cap kindergarten class sizes to 26 and will not allow kindergartens and grade 1s to be in a split class. And we're going to end the Education Quality and Accountability Office. That's the office that sets up testing, and a lot of teachers are teaching to tests and not teaching for results.
So I'm going to use this opportunity to jump in as I've listened to people debate for 3 minutes about what they think should happen to an education system that they're all wholly, and including myself, that every human being is wholly unqualified to figure out. You've got just a ridiculous number of customers for the education system, because that's what they are. And I don't know what qualifications exactly we have to figure out such a complex system. Like, I'm hearing things like the system is underfunded, there's not enough teachers. Well, by what metric are we deciding that they're underfunded? Under normal circumstances.
School Teachers Federation.
Unfortunately, they're not qualified either. So
these are generalities. We have the lowest math scores in decades. Our plan, our progressive conservative plan, is to have teachers' colleges teach teachers mathematics, spend more time on mathematics,
so again,
have educational assistance. We have a concrete plan, and we also have an evidence-based approach, which the Liberal government has failed to do in consecutive years, both in the educational field and in mental health. We have seen major lack. As an educational psychologist, I know how spread thin psychologists are. Sometimes there's one psychologist for a whole school board. That is unacceptable.
You will be very happy to hear that as our mental health, we're actually bringing this.
For grades 7 and 8 only.
You know what?
They're the most important stages, the earliest stage.
Let Marie-France speak here. Cameron, go ahead. You're going to get the final 30 seconds anyway.
So, I've been part of our community in the past 4 years as your elected officials. I've been in this classroom, and what we've seen is that, yes, grade 6 we need to improve, but in grade 9 and 12, actually, our children are performing extremely well, and actually we're teaching them the job of tomorrow. Let's look at what our economic growth has been and our kids' opportunity into this
everything
equation.
that everybody has said on the stage, except for myself, is economically incorrect.
Hand it back to Cameron Montgomery. You have the final 30 seconds on this topic.
Thank you. We are a pro-education party. As an educator, I want to reassure all the teachers out there, all the parents and all the students, we will consult you. We will look into revising our sex ed curriculum. I have a 4-year-old son. I'm deeply concerned about his future and the kind of information he will be getting. I agree on some of the points that sexting and texting have become major issues. Technology, we will address those. We will look into math, and we'll make sure we have the best curriculum with best students in the world.
Okay, thank you. I'll remind everyone that during those final 30 seconds, it's just the one candidate who gets to speak. It's no longer the debate. I know you can get in the habit of being part of the debate and discussion there, but that's the way we've structured things. So, next question is directed to Marie-France Lalonde, who is the Liberal candidate. And let's talk about government finances. Your government talked for a long time about the need to balance the budget. How can we afford to go into deficit again so soon after you finally balance the books?
Well, I was very happy in 2014 when we moved forward on our plan to balance our book, and we've done that this year. One thing that I can say is that going to the door, meeting people in our constituency office for the past 4 years, is that you realize the need, the caring component that we need to continue to support the people of our community. Healthcare, seniors care, mental health care. Let's talk about childcare. Let's continue to talk about the economy of our communities. So, you know what? I have to say that, in my opinion, increasing our funding for people in our community and taking care of them to ensure that actually for every dollar investment we'll be actually preventing issue is a good investment.
Okay, it's open to everyone on the subject of government finances.
The fact that my opponent is mentioning investment when her party is dipping into debt and deficits to borrow that money is completely unsustainable. We are in an unsustainable path towards more debt and destruction in our province. We are worse. We have the highest subnational debt on the planet.
What is your leaders going to do about this? How about if you answer the people of this community? What are you going to to cut?
We are going to
What are you
find.
going to cut?
That's the big thing.
I'm a business owner. Efficiency means cuts. Let's be straight.
Business
I
owners
just want to make
business
sure that
owners
we
have
realize
suffered.
this.
Bill
I would like to
148.
point out that I know who you supported. It was Christine Elliott. Mr. Ford is a different person. He thinks about slogan. He is making policy on the fly as he go around the province. And I don't think in Orleans, people understand what it means, because when you don't cost out a platform, when you cannot say exactly what you're going to do for the people, we are saying what we're going to do for you.
My
It is
opponent, unfortunately, my opponent has unfortunately not had the chance to visit all the businesses in Orleans and seen how they suffered.
No point
All right,
Everybody
Barbara Zarboni, go ahead.
Doug Ford's plan on cutting taxes, as he has spit it out without actually writing it down, is he said that he is going to make tax cuts for the middle class. Now, I'm not sure how he defines the middle class, but my people have done some analysis, and they figured that if you earn between $39,000 and $49,000 on Doug Ford's plan, you will reap a benefit of $18. And if you make $109,000, you will reap a benefit of $1,168. I want to point out that there are not only fiscal costs and deficits, but social deficits. We're seeing that with the deterioration of roads, infrastructure, and schools. Those things cost money. Sometimes you have to pay to play. And I will take the Walkerton disaster as an example, because the inquiry after that disaster did make lay equal guilt on the provincial government because of cuts to the Ministry of the Environment. Ultimately, 7 people died, 2,300 were sick, many of whom have not recovered. How much are people worth? So there has to be some balance between deficits socially and fiscally.
So Barbara, I'm happy you're bringing some points that I feel very, very important in my values, because not investing in our kids, in our children, in our seniors, for me, is actually against my personal belief. You know what? I'm proud that my government in our party has invested significant amount of money in infrastructure, building and bringing the LRT to Trim Road. Also looking at municipal, well, you know what? It's starting this year. We're first at the table. And you know what? I have to say, if I was to ask Mr. Montgomery, Cameron, about what his party stands for, I don't think he would really understand and be able to share, because at the end of the day, if you don't bring money,
may I please? You've been
only cut taxes. We all like to cut taxes, but unfortunately, we need to care for
these people can't control themselves, but they'll control your money just fine.
Checks are going to bounce.
All right, Gerald Boudreau, go ahead.
So I'd like to point out that everybody is telling you exactly what they think you need, based off of what metric. It's not clear. Supposedly, some of them, of the people I'm sharing the stage with, completely understand the complex education system, the budget, what you should do with $18, or that you don't need $18. I'm not sure what the implication was there. And I'd just like to point out that this is all not something any of us are qualified to point out. You have a complex personal and economic life which we cannot possibly know about. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you what to do. And in fact, if you vote for the Libertarian Party, you're going to be able to choose where your money goes. You'll be able to consume what you'd like to consume. A democratic system can include a market where you put your money where you believe, instead of listening to people bicker.
I'd love to know more about your economic plan, but I think we have a robust economic plan to find efficiencies in our government. If you look at the billion-dollar scandals between Orange, e-health, and the nuclear gas plants scandals, those are $1 billion. My opponents to the left, their checks will bounce. In Quebec, they found a viable plan to reinvest surpluses into their budget and subsequently pay off infrastructure and other investments. If we look south, Michigan did the same thing. If we're in a situation with...
I'm going to jump in, and Barbara Zarboni, you'll go next. Marie-France Lalonde, don't forget you have the last 30 seconds no matter what.
I'm just going to say, under the last Conservative government, we lost 6,000 nurses, 7,000 hospital beds, hospitals, teachers, so I guess we will be funding it.
Number of hospitals and teachers.
Do you not think that government when they're in government, they don't hire people who are...
I don't think they can hire somebody that can figure that out. That's why we have markets. Suggest, anarchy? I suggest markets. I suggest that people,
markets don't work
the
for
same
everybody.
way, well, you can think about it when you get into your car today, how it was figured out how that car needed to be built, or how many cars needed to be produced.
Right,
and
with the EPA
market,
all over them and
the
have
market
safety
for education
Transport Canada,
or anything is no different. There's consumer demand for hospitals, and the only way to find out how much
taxing and spending.
Okay.
They bring up the distant
past.
past.
Thank you. Marie-France Lalonde, you have the final 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. And you know what? People of Orleans, we have committed to invest together. We've invested in our infrastructure, we've invested in our building schools, we've invested in our healthcare hubs. I have to say that I'm very proud when, you know, I did study in administration at one point before social work. And you know what? For every dollar you invest, there's always a gain. And what we've seen is 1 million jobs created. The lowest unemployment rate in the history, 20 years, 4.2%. Our plan is working.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for your participation in that discussion. I'm going to direct the next question to the NDP candidate, Barbara Zarboni. And in 2020, this is a question that was submitted by a member of the community, by the way. In 2020, there will be about 1.4 million Ontarians aged over 85. What is the plan to manage the needs of this massive group of people who really need care?
On several fronts. It will cost money. Nothing's free. But again, we have the social benefit. So the NDP, their program is to create 40,000 more long-term beds, including 15,000 in the next 5 years. Just before Parliament was prorogued to introduce a budget, there was a bill to provide a minimum of 4 hours personal care for people in these residents, and that was taken off the table. So we were going to offer a minimum of 4 hours of hands-on per day care. We're going to hold a public inquiry into long-term care, update the long-term care residents' Bill of Rights to give couples the right to stay together. And one other thing I think is interesting is people can stay in their homes and they will not be responsible for their municipal taxes. It will be paid when the house is sold.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, everyone.
Can I start? You know, for 15 years, I worked in our healthcare sector. Actually, I was part of a social worker who was actually during the Harris government years, where I think Mr. Ford's father was there. And you know what? Significant amount of cut. We even tried to close our only francophone hospital, the Montfort. Shortage of doctors, no long-term care beds. Our proposed to you as seniors, and that's been for the past 4 years, some things that I'm very passionate and engaged, is actually build more long-term care. Recently, we've announced actually 128 new beds in our community of Orleans in the east. And also, let's not forget that we're committed to hiring nurses. I want to say thank you. Thank you to all the healthcare workers who worked so much in our healthcare sector. Also at CHEO, $105 million, you know, to bring an integrated model. I know that it's not in Orleans, but everyone in Orleans who has a child has gone to CHEO, and it's a wonderful place. So we need to adjust. We need to bring that component for seniors. Coming back to seniors also, between the long-term care, we're going to increase capacity for long-term care, the support within. I hear the challenges. I've been on family council. I've been engaging with our seniors, but also family of seniors in our long-term care. And you know what? We need to invest more, and that's our commitment, and that's my commitment to you. Let's not forget, and again, I know you're going to say you're going to do everything and all, but let's cost it out and show me what you're going to do. I'm going to continue talking on that subject because I have to say, and I have no problem, but this is a subject matter that's dear to my heart.
Absolutely.
I went into politics
You've had a lot of airtime on this one.
Because
So
only 4 years,
you've had
actually.
a lot of airtime.
I started 4 years ago to
I'd like you to release
you.
the data on the seniors that have been abused in our city. And you have no shame about going about the kind of care that these seniors who are terrified about the next steps in their life.
So am I hearing that you're accusing those people that are working so hard in our... Are you putting a personal attack on our personal support workers?
I'd like to get to the bottom of it.
You know what? Actually,
I'm not accusing anybody, and it's extremely important to get to the bottom of those issues. That's abuse, and it ends there, period. Our party has a fantastic plan. We are going to create 30,000 beds over the next 10 10 years. And we're going to have a robust plan, as I spoke earlier. We're going to find efficiencies.
Oh,
we're going to find efficiencies. You actually have you actually have efficiencies calculated into your budget too. And this year you have an $8 billion deficit. Yeah. So don't talk to me because you talked about that point because you talked about balancing the budget this year.
Again,
the other thing that I'd like to add to our robust plan is our dental care for low-income seniors.
I'm going to let each of you have a turn. So, but if you both talk at the same time, nobody will hear what you're saying.
I apologize.
So, Cameron Montgomery, you go first, and then Marie-France.
Thank you. As I was saying, we have a fantastic plan for dental care for seniors that we've come out with. Dear friends, it's going to be actually for lower income, helping them out with dental care is another expense for you. We're going to provide relief. We're going to create these beds and take the onus off of those next steps. We also have an amazing commitment to mental health. There's a huge need in the sector of mental health and seniors care. I think our party has the best plan for you, and we're going to take care of you. Thank you.
I think that,
sorry, I said I would go to Marie-France Lalonde next.
No, that's okay, Jerry.
I get to speak for 5 minutes out of
well,
this.
You can have some more time after this.
I haven't had any.
So, Mark, I'm going to continue to talk to you about my passion, which is seniors. And you know what? I hear what Mr. Montgomery is saying about his efficiencies within the system. We recall Mr. Harris' efficiencies, and I hope people will remember. For those that don't, that means that actually there was no family doctor, no nurses, no specialists in Ontario. What we're proposing to you as seniors, and actually I've been to the door talking to you about our great plan, OHIP Plus. We're going to make sure that your prescription medication are fully covered after the age of 65. Over 75 years of age, what I'm hearing at the door is that you want to stay home. You're looking, you actually are interested in staying home. And actually I was very happy to share some of the initiative where we're going to help you with some of the maintenance of your house, cutting the grass, removing the snow.
I'm going to jump in and Gerald Bordeaux, go ahead.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that if you want to have more resources to take care of a problem like age, that you should just look at making it cheaper. And so a lot of the things that the government that has done recently have made it extremely expensive to run businesses where you have to hire labor. If anybody, I'm sure that anybody watching this has some experience of trying to put a senior into a decent home and finding their jaw hit the floor when they see the cost of that. And it's not the business owner trying to soak you, as I'm sure Marie-France would agree with me. It is simply expensive to run a business, including senior care. And so if you get out of the way and let business owners do the work they like to do, like Marie-France over here, you will find that senior care isn't an issue anymore.
All right.
Well, I would just say, Jerry, you know what? I do believe that there has to be some regulation. You know what? I think Mr. Montgomery was referring about the abuse in our. I was part actually on the council on the task force to helping implement actually a task force to help preventing abuse.
I asked the question to you, Barbara Zarboni, so you get the final 30 seconds here.
So the NDP will increase supports for people, the 190,000 Ontarians who live with dementia and their families and their caregivers. An NDP government would continue the $100 million Ontario's dementia strategy over 3 years. Another thing, dental care and pharmacare. 1 in 4 seniors don't take their medications. They can't afford it. We'll make sure they can. Dental care. You can die from heart disease because your teeth are not in good shape. So we'll cover that too.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to the next topic, which is public transit. And we have another question that was submitted by a member of the community. I'll direct it to the Libertarian Party candidate, Gerald Bordeaux. And the question is, do you support the expansion of Phase 2 of Ottawa's light rail system to the airport and to Limebank Road?
I support having the exact correct amount of transportation that is required to get people around Ottawa. And I think anybody who sits in traffic every morning realizes that we don't have the correct amount of transportation. And that anybody who takes a look at that giant private highway down by Toronto will realize that there are other options than simply asking the government to build a train. Again, I'm not an expert on transportation. I know a lot about a few things, like most people. And so I don't know what the correct way to have transportation is. I just want to let you decide how you'd like to get to work with your dollars, like they do in Hong Kong and many other richer cities around the planet with a higher standard of living.
Okay, it's open to everyone now on public transit.
I'm proud to announce that our party and our leader is totally in favor of the LRT, and we're looking forward to phase 2, 100%.
Okay, so that's good. So I want to know how you're going to commit to this. So, you know, as you know, in 2014, I was first at the table to announce that phase 2 of to Place Orleans. Not only did we put it to Place Orleans, I was able to bring it to Trim Road. So 50% of the funding between Place Orleans and Trim, it comes from the federal and the provincial partnership that we were able to establish on your behalf. Public transit is, I would say, almost in our DNA. We've been building this province up by creating jobs through public transit. We believe in a green economy. This is very important for us. I'm not sure about the member on my right, but certainly for us. You know, and also I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised, and I have to say that because it really, really disturbs me. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Ford did commit to fund infrastructure across in Cornwall, particular, but across the province. Only if municipalities were willing to do the cuts that he would deem appropriate as a leader. You know what? I do believe in partnership. We've been building this province up together with our municipalities all across, and especially in Orleans on your behalf. You know what? There's still challenges, and I have to say I am fully committed in improving our situation for creating municipal local road. And you know what? That's what I'm hearing at the door, actually.
So I just think it's incredible, the certainty that everybody else seems to have over transportation. There's a thing in economics called opportunity cost, which is simply that whatever resources you funnel in one direction, you could have funneled in the other. For some reason, where they get their data, and I mean, no economist would ever agree to this sort of fact-finding where we're going to just decide to do a train. We're not going to take any consumer input, and we're just going to live with it at whatever the opportunity cost was.
I'm going to jump in, then you can. Okay,
please, Barbara.
I just wanted to tell you.
We're not going to decide order here because
we are, because we're good that way. So the NDP will commit to funding the LRT2. They are going to make sure that they pay 50%. Okay, I've lost my numbers, but transit, we're going to fund 50% of net transit and paratransit operating costs. This will give municipalities, not just Ottawa, but all municipalities, a way to budget and plan for the future. Transit is vital, and you know, someone said to me it's so expensive, but if you look back 150 years ago to London subway, do you think they would have said, oh, it's $1 billion, but it's over 150 years? Maybe we should do something that well, and maybe that's the result we'll get, reliable public transit.
So Barbara, I appreciate the fact that you're referring to our city, and you know what? I was very happy when our government actually determined that for improving and supporting better the local infrastructure, we were going to doubling the gas tax. This is something that every municipalities, large city, have access, and we made that commitment to them. I'm not sure if Mr. Ford will commit to that and continuing with, you know, everybody likes to have tax cuts, but at the same time, it does cost money to invest. Again, what I'm saying to you is that we do have challenges in Orleans in terms of our infrastructure, our road infrastructure. And I've sat down with our local councillors, actually we call ourselves the East Blocks, and also our mayor, and trying to identify aspects as we're committed to building the LRT phase 2 to Trim Road, we will need to address the condition of the 174. So certainly this has been a conversation. We do have an environmental assessment that's been done, and for that exact purpose, because we need to look at how to move people. But the main thing for us is the commitment for the LRT. Within our city, we've seen growth. You know, I didn't actually move to the riding to run. I have to say I've been living in that riding, and I think, Barbara, you've been there even longer than me. I remember when we saw pasture and actually farming in Orleans.
I'm a little confused as to what the length of time spent in the riding has anything to do with the individuals on
it's a curious thing, but let me tell you. Let me tell you, Jerry.
Well,
when I jump on the 174 off of Jeanne d'Arc, coming out of my beautiful neighborhood, I just see people that are frustrated. I see status quo. I hear a lot of rhetoric. I know of hundreds of broken promises in terms of infrastructure from the Liberal Kathleen Wynne and the Dalton McGuinty Liberal Party, the parties of the past 15 years. I hear a lot of references to prior governments that are in the distant past. We're a new party. We're ready to invest in the LRT. We're very concerned about the environment. And we also have decrepit roads. I've hit thousands and thousands of doors, and I know that people are really frustrated. As a resident and someone who's worked in the riding, actually, who's worked in the riding for the past 15 years. I visited all the schools between Louis Ariel, Béatrice Desloges. My student teachers have all worked there. I know the roads well. People are fed up. They want change.
Thank you. I'll remind everyone that when you're all talking at the same time, nobody can hear what you're saying anyway, so it's better to take turns. But we're going to go back to Gerald Boudreau, who is to whom I directed the original question. So you have the final 30 seconds on this.
Well, I just think it's fascinating that I'm not really hearing too much. I'm not hearing any real technical arguments as to why I should listen to anything that I'm hearing. It's mostly been attacks on a man who's not here, named Doug Ford, and it's also been a claim that I've heard just now that living in an area makes you expert enough to go to Toronto and decide what will occur across the province. I'm disappointed by the level of debate here.
Okay, thank you. Next question is back to Cameron Montgomery, the Progressive Conservative candidate. We're going to talk about energy and electricity pricing in Ontario now, and I'm going to start with a specific question that was submitted by a member of the community. Many Ontarians are at risk of losing their rebates if the current green retrofit programs are cancelled. Will your government honor, if you form a government, honor these commitments, which in some cases can mean thousands of dollars for homeowners?
Our commitments are currently to scrap the Green Energy Act. Let's make that extremely clear from the get-go. It has been a money loser. We have lost billions of dollars. We have seen windmills crash to the ground. Hydro rates have been ambiguous. They've tripled in price under Kathleen Wynne and my opponent's government for the past 4 years. Our party is going to use Hydro One as a dividend. Unfortunately, Kathleen Wynne and the Liberal government have sold off more than 50% of Hydro One, which was an extremely important dividend. And as it stands, the current contracts will be respected. The CEO of Hydro One makes $4.5 million plus a $2 million bonus. Money will go back into the taxpayers' pockets.
Okay, it's open to everyone now.
I would like to say that prior to Mr. Ford coming to the leadership, the Conservatives actually did talk about selling Hydro One and Ontario Power Generation. And Doug Ford says when it comes to privatization, he will leave no stone unturned. Exactly. So I do want to say there's a few things the NDP do plan to put forward, and I think I'm going to make it quick. So the most important thing for working families, small businesses, is to end the time of use premium. Small businesses and families don't have control when they have to do their laundry, when they cook dinner, you come home from work, you have to turn the oven on. If you run a small business, you need your hydro during the day. And the NDP will reform the Ontario Energy Board so that it serves consumers, not energy insiders.
So Barbara, I appreciate the thoughts, and certainly Mr. Montgomery also. You know, I have to say, one of the things that I have heard, and we've heard, was how rapid the rate was increasing. And what we've done for that is that actually we made a decision to reduce the rate by 25%, up to 25%. Also, we are maintaining, well, actually, if you were to listen to your leader, you're actually decreasing 25 plus an additional 12%, which you cannot even explain how you're going to pay for that.
Of course we can. I said we're holding on to as an investment. And let's not forget that your leader
is also saying that the first thing you'll do in office, let's not forget, I thought that as a conservative, you let the market, you allow private companies and private company to manage. The first thing he's going to do is going to fire an entire board. You know what?
Absolutely. They've mismanaged and they've tripled the cost.
Yeah, but that's again against a little bit the principle of good conservative, which is
and ineffective.
Less involvement in government and less regulation. So your leader is a little confused here. What I'm going to say is that we're not confused. We have a plan for our energy. You know what? I was very happy that we canceled our coal plant. You know, coal plant in Ontario costs money to our health care.
Why did you buy a coal plant down in the States then? And just gave the CEO a $50 million package? You just bought a coal plant, and you spent $6.5 billion of our taxpayers' money.
I'd like to
it's
know
unacceptable.
how the Conservatives do plan to reduce hydro bills then. What is your plan?
The plan is it's a simple economic plan. By cutting the Green Energy Act, I'll go back to the very beginning, is step number one. Step number two is seeing Hydro One as a dividend. It is a paying dividend. It's giving out a certain profit. That profit will go right back into the pockets of our taxpayers.
But you understand that money currently is paying for the infrastructure. So the commitment that you're making for LRT Phase 2 is actually paid by that money, that the broadening of the Hydro One.
You're putting words in my mouth. We're finding efficiencies in other areas.
Like what?
I'll tell you right now, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you asked me that question.
Yeah.
Do you know how many regulations there are for businesses in Ontario?
Yes, I know.
How many?
Over 6,000, I think.
No, 350,000.
Okay.
350,000. Businesses currently are strangled with a number of regulations. We will find efficiencies. And the next number I have for you, do you know how much that's costing businesses? $15 billion a year.
So which number?
15 billion.
Actually, I'm trying to understand your maths because I was a business owner actually in Orleans.
Hi, I'm going to correct something there. It's not actually costing businesses that money mostly, it's costing consumers that money. Because most businesses, when their overhead goes up, their products get more expensive. So I'm hearing a lot of really fallacious things up here. I'm curious as to how everyone else has fallen exactly in line with their political party's solutions to education, budgeting, transportation, green energy, etc. And why we keep debating as if Kathleen Wynne and Doug Ford are in the room. Is it possible that I could get somebody else?
You know what?
I'm going to tell you 5 seconds.
Yes.
So we have, it seems to me, a claim that we are going to look out for the people of Orleans, but at the same time, it seems like there's a claim also that we're going to have a duty towards our parties as well. This party, the one I'm in, there's no such situation. It's up to you to make your decisions. Sorry.
No, I think it's a good point. You know what, Jerry?
No, it's a market.
That's your belief, and I respect your belief.
You just said you like markets.
What I'm saying is that I certainly remember as a business owner the impact of the brownout and blackout. I remember living in Orleans and having no power because, unfortunately, artificially, somebody had frozen those rates. What I can say is that our plan is about predictability and ensuring that you understand and the understandability. And that's why we reduced by 25%, and we're fully committed in continuing on programs to help low earners and also our seniors who are desperately needing that support. So we've committed to this. When I hear everyone here talking about buying back and buying back on one side and continuing to find efficiency, what I hear is cuts. And to be fair, ideology of how you're going to pay for this. It's going to cost billions of dollars.
What we've done, that Cameron was talking about.
What we've done is a plan. We have a plan for our hydro rate and also our energy. And as I said, you know what? Climate change does exist. And having a clean, reliable, efficient hydro, I think it's very important. And I would say for business owners in our community of Orleans, having a reliable source of energy when you open your switch and you can have power, that's also a big
I'm going to consider this debate a success because
I'm going to let Gerald Boudreau speak, and then
I'm going to consider this debate a success because I actually just heard a Liberal complain about an artificial price on hydro, right? That's progress, folks.
Okay, let's stop there. And Cameron Montgomery, you get the final 30 seconds on this.
Thank you. I think the hydro situation has been one of the biggest disasters in our provincial history. If we look at what the CEO, Mr. Schmidt, is making, $4.5 billion plus a $2 million bonus, it's totally unacceptable. That means $16,000 a day. We will scrap the Green Energy Act. It is proved to be completely ineffective. And also, we will use Hydro One as a dividend. Money going back into your pockets. Businesses can barely survive, business owners and taxpayers.
Thank you. Next question is to Marie-France Lalonde of the Liberal Party, and it's on the subject of the opioid crisis. In the last term, your government seemed reluctant to declare the opioid crisis a health emergency. What steps do you think are necessary to reduce the rising number of overdoses, and would you support a mobile supervised injection site for Ottawa?
Actually, I thank you for the question, whoever asked that question, because as a person who actually worked with our most vulnerable in my early years as a social worker, what I've seen is the effect. The effect of drugs and addictions, and we are seeing it all throughout, youth, and also I have to say, working with the chief coroner and hearing those stats, it is concerning. It is concerning enough that we created a strategy for our province, and here more locally, we've invested a significant amount of money for bringing more counselors, more supports, and actually, yes, we've been looking actually with the inner city on creating capacity so a mobile site supervision could happen.
Okay. It's open to everyone now on this subject.
I think the opioid crisis has been a complete disaster in this province. Our party is committed to investing $1.9 billion into mental health, addiction, and housing. I am so proud of that commitment. That will actually bring it back to where people really need help the most. My first job was as an educational assistant. I go back to when I was 18 and 19 years old, working with children who, in fact, had special needs. Some of them were from families with fetal alcohol syndrome and other difficult situations. So I perfectly understand, what these people are going through and the kind of help and support they need. What they need is concrete support in terms of their mental health needs. We need more mental health care practitioners, and we need to do early prevention and intervention. The earlier the better. The first 5 years are the most important, and it's at that point in a child's life that he or she needs help. And our party is committed to that with our policy.
Cameron, I would say this is probably one aspect that we would agree, to the exception where I think your leader doesn't believe in supervised site injection. But you know what? Opioid crisis has become a crisis all throughout our province, in our community of Ottawa and in Orleans. And I talk to parents, right? You talk to parents and you hear that concern. I have a youth council in Orleans where we meet with our youth council and we talk about the effect of drugs. And, we're talking a lot about the youth, but let's not forget the stats. The stats are saying to us, sadly, that most people that are overdosing of opioid are over the age of, I think it's 25 to 49 years old, and they're men in their home. So if you look at those stats, you realize how complex the opioid issues are, and that's why I'm very happy to see the city working with us at the provincial level and also with the federal to bring supervised site injection all throughout our city. We need to do more education. I completely agree. People need to know the risk associated with the consumption of drugs. But at the same time, those individuals need proper housing. And that's another commitment that we made to help with social housing. I had the great pleasure of working in our correction system. And one thing also, as people leave, we also realize that they are at risk. So we've provided them with naloxone kits. I was happy to see that our government, not only on first responders, but we've improved access through pharmacy, various pharmacy. You can go there and help and ask for naloxone kits. Is this the end result of everything? Not at all. Not at all. But we're fully committed. And I won't talk about dollar figure because I don't think it matters for you. But I'm going to say that it's fully committed to be there.
I'm going to jump in. Thanks,
please.
France. Very nice. The NDP recognizes that this is an emergency we've never seen the likes of before, and it does seem to be expanding, and it's not just in Ottawa Centre, it's not down by the market, it's happening in people's suburban homes, and as you pointed out, it's often people in their 20s and 30s. What we can do, well, we can expand the distribution of naloxone, expand it, and other anti-overdose medications, listen to frontline harm reduction workers and people who've lived with it, invest in 30,000 new supportive housing units. That's supportive housing units, not just a low-income housing, it's supportive. Work with police services across the province to ensure that they have the resources to deal with the problem, and they're going to create an opioid emergency task force to provide evidence-based strategies. But going with that, as Cameron pointed out, it is a mental health issue, and we need to early education. It's one of those drugs that you take it once and you're addicted. So, and take it once and you die. So it's terribly serious.
I'm wondering whether throwing more money at this problem will actually help. It might be underfunded, it might not. I don't know that we can tell. But I think it sounds like we all kind of agree that opening up addiction centers is not the end-all and be-all of the problem, or the solution, I should say. And I wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, whether this is a cultural problem. It was just noted that this affects young men primarily. And I wonder what we're doing to young men then, and whether the government really has a business in the lives of young men, and perhaps that's the problem. Perhaps through some of the rhetoric that comes out of the government these days, young men don't feel like joining society. I don't know if that's the full answer, but I think it's a question worth asking, and it's one that people can handle from the comfort of their own home rather than from Queen's Park.
I think it's important to distinguish the fact that it is not a gender problem. There may be a certain tranche or proportion of the population that is more at risk, but it really does come down to early intervention, as I stated earlier, and our commitment does need dollars to go into that.
What's the explanation then?
The explanation is very simple. Actually, it's the fact that some people, for example, a schizophrenic or somebody with bipolar disorder who goes undiagnosed for years is extremely at risk and doesn't have the money to get the mental health services or access to the mental health services that he needs. So we need to, as I said, gender, it doesn't come down to a gender variable.
Okay, we just heard that men are affected by this more than women. Are you disputing that? It could be true. I just heard somebody else say it.
There are different risk factors according to
there is a difference
according to the addiction.
Okay, so there is a difference between men and women that is doing something here. I don't know what. I don't know why that's a difficult thing to say, but there it is. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, anyone else? All right, let's wrap up then. Marie-France Lalonde, I directed the question to you, so you have the final 30 seconds.
That's why I didn't sort of interrupt our debate here, because I knew that I had the privilege of speaking last on this one. You know what? We've done many things over the last few years. We've educated our doctors. We improved the access to those highly addicted drugs. But we need to do more, and we're fully committed in doing this. So we've invested significant amount of money, and what my commitment is for our community of Orleans is actually to bring more mental health supports and drug and addiction treatment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for the debate portion of our telecast. We're going to move now to the closing statements, and once again, we will go in the reverse order of the opening statements. That was drawn at random before we began. So we're going to start with Gerald Boudreau, who is the Libertarian Party candidate. Go ahead.
Thanks. So this, I think, pretty well has gone down exactly how I thought it would. I've heard a lot of very confident opinions on a range of topics. Like I said in my opening debate, from contracts people can sign to where they're going to drive on the road and where are you going to get your schooling, et cetera, et cetera. And I just leave it to you to decide, based off the comportment of everyone here, the arguments with people who aren't in the room, and a lot of rhetoric. Do you entrust your money with the folks that you see in front of you? I leave it up to you. I would choose yourself. You can decide better than I can what to do with your money. You can decide better than I can where to send your children to school. You can decide better than I can how much to sell your labor for, and all kinds of facets in your complex life. So if you vote for the Libertarian Party, we will get out of the way, slowly but surely get the government out of your way, and we can return Ontario to a civilized society.
Okay, thank you. Up next is the NDP candidate, Barbara Zarboni. Go ahead, you have 1 minute.
Oh, well, I just wondered if anybody remembers the Ontario song, A Place to Stand and a Place to Grow, and that's really what I would like to see happen. We have water, air, soil, we have people. You know, Orleans has the highest number of PhDs in the country by riding. So we have what it takes to make this a great place to live. Somehow or other, I think we've lost our way. We've got roads crumbling. We've got high energy. It's costing businesses thousands of dollars. Public services make life better for all Ontarians, and we want to recreate a strong network of public services, including health care, dental care, pharmacare. Those things drive the economy because you have a healthy workforce, a safe, secure workforce. They're going to go out there and do what they're capable of doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Liberal Party candidate, in the riding of Orleans, Marie-France Lalonde. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and I want to say thank you to everyone here on this panel for being here today. 4 years ago, the people of Orleans, you at home, sent me to Queen's Park to get resolve for our community. We made the promise. We kept our promises. The LRT, Phase 2, to Trim Road, the cleaning the Ottawa River, the healthcare hub, fully funded and designed and will very soon to come in our community. We built schools. That was one key element, and I still hear this actually at the door, the fact that we need to continue building on our school system and create more childcare space. You know what? We're working together. I'm working with you, and I know that there's more that can be done, and having listened to you for the past 4 years, we need to better support the mental health, as I mentioned, continue to build on our infrastructure, and finding solution together.
Okay, thank you. Finally, the Progressive Conservative candidate, Cameron Montgomery. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank my opponents. Thank you so much for your input, your knowledge. Our PC team has a plan, the passion and the know-how, how to give power back to the people, you. We'll find efficiencies across the government and ensure these savings go back into our emergency rooms, our classrooms, and your living rooms. Ontario will be strong again. Orleans will be strong. Like you, I am a hard-working citizen. I am campaigning to make a difference in my community of Orleans, my province, for the people, for change. I'm excited to push forward with the Health Hub and push that to completion. My name is Cameron Montgomery, your PC candidate in Orleans. I will be your voice at Queen's Park, and I'm asking you for your vote. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in the debate today, and best of luck to you in the election on June the 7th. And I want to remind our viewers that we will have live coverage of the election results, live local coverage on Rogers TV and on 1310 News. Join us on June the 7th. Thanks for watching The Local Campaign.